And when I started my training as an actor, to become an actress, this was in the 70s, where there were lots of talking about physical theatre everywhere. And I, who was occupied, obsessed by words and by the expression of the eyes and faces of people, found that difficult to cope with. I mean, I saw lots of performances where actors were hanging by their knees, climbing the walls, flick-flacking through their parts beautifully, while saying lines. But most of the time, I found this as uninteresting as I found the stiff and the declamatory art of theatre, which these actors obviously and good were trying to revolt against. I very seldom saw, or in what I saw, or felt in what I was doing myself, words becoming flesh. The first time that I really discovered that I had a body was when I was playing Donna Elvira in Don Juan by Molière. As you know, Donna Elvira is the wife of Don Juan. He has courted her, attacked her, defeated her, and conquered her from her monastery, married her, and after having married her, he turns his back against her and goes away to new adventures. And Donna Elvira, of course, is furious, rejected. And she returns, she follows Don Juan, and she returns to him. And the director was Peter Kupke from Germany. He asked me to make my entry from the backdrop and go forward on my first line to Don Juan, who was sitting on the forestage, and say my line. And then he put fan. I had never held a fan in my hand before. I knew nothing about fans. I knew they were beautiful and they were used to fan yourself with when it was hot. But in my tradition, if ever there was one, there didn't exist fans. And as I was born in the northwest of Finland, there were reasons for using fans. Of course, I knew that people used fans in the 18th century, and this was a play from that period, and I am an actor. I'm supposed to be able to do anything. And I am brave. So, I used the fan. Don Juan, så jeg ber dem om at vi kennes ved meg. Så jeg det minste håper på at vi tar meg i øyesyn. And not only the fan was alive, but everything was moving on me. The hand, the arm, the head, the other arm, the body, the legs, everything. And I could feel So the director, who was a very clever, good director, he suggested me to use only half of the fan. Don Juan, tør jeg bede dem om, at de vil kendes ved mig? Tør jeg det mindste håbe på, at de vil tage mig i øjesyn? A little better, but only half as good. Half as bad still. Now, the thing was really, of course, that I did not have a relationship with this object. It was an object of, it was a cliché to me, and nothing but a cliché. So, Peter Kupke presented me with something that looked about like this. And immediately my imagination started to work. Because this was an extraordinary, unexpected thing in this context. It looked funny, it looked silly, it looked soft. And immediately I was longing to feel the softness of it against my chin. And then, from this little object, my imagination started working, and suddenly this part of Donna Elvira became very important. And I thought about the fact that the heart was beating here, the breasts were here. Perhaps Don Juan was the first man ever that had touched her breasts. She was hot and furious. Of course, she needed a little bit extra air, which I got from this. And it tickled a little bit also. It was sensual. And as this caught my imagination, something also happened with my voice and the breathing. Because until then I had used the voice, big voice from the abdominals, stage voice. But I felt very clearly now that Donna Elvira was, because this was her center, this was the place also from where she took her air. Actually, to me suddenly Donna Elvira only was this little part. And as I made my entry, everything suddenly was much easier. Don Juan, tør jeg bede dem om, at de vil kendes ved mig? Tør jeg det mindste håbe på, at de vil tage mig i øjesyn? And so this gave the energy for the rest of the scene and the rest of the play.